Despite some hiccups, credit card stocks still boasting resilient spending. On one hand, good news for the economy, also raising some worries about America's massive debt, consumer debt. Credit card debt sits at over $1 trillion in the U.S., and discussions around that growing debt are prominent now on social media. On TikTok, many financial influencers have made careers on helping people get out of debt and change their spending habits. However, some call this debt shaming, encouraging people to have no debt at all, putting a moral value on it, leading to a debate on the financial side of TikTok, a.k.a. FinTok. Here to discuss America's debt problem is Jade Warshaw, a personal finance expert and co-host of The Ramsey Show. Steve Grasso here as well with us. Welcome. We appreciate it, Jade, you're being with us. So,
thank you for having us.
What are people saying on social media that has some folks saying this amounts to debt shaming, that we're making people feel worse than they ought to about carrying some levels of debt?
You know, I don't think it is about debt shaming. I think it's about bringing a very real topic to the forefront, or at least it should be. I mean, we do see that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We know that, 49% of Americans have reported that the state of their finances is causing them mental distress, right? It's a negative effect on their mental health. Most Americans, they can't afford a $1,000 emergency. And so this truly is the reality of the situation. And we should be shining a light on that and offering solutions, not shaming people. And so, if it's me, I'm giving you solutions. I'm telling you, listen, let's stop borrowing money. Let's get on a budget. Let me teach you how to start paying off your debt. And shame is really the last emotion that I want people to feel.
It's interesting because we often talk about how that kind of education should start much earlier in elementary or middle school, or for certainly in high school, before money becomes a problem for instance, those who graduate from high school and then get themselves in a lot of credit card debt. I was interested in your 5 pillars of personal wealth. You're saying not only to get out of debt and to live on a budget, but also to have the proper amount of insurance. I mean, is any of this going to, do you think, really carry through to kids who, and I say kids, but a lot of times it's even older adults who are like, I can't afford to put gas in my car this week, much less think about, am I carrying proper insurance?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We're not taught this in schools, and I do think that's a problem, and it's a problem that we're working to solve. We have a curriculum that we're introducing to more and more schools, foundations in personal finance. And so we are offering that, but I think you're right. People are looking to social media because they're like, what is the first place for me to start? And I do think that if you're going on social media, you want to look for any credible source, right? And a credible source is one that's going to be teaching you those 5 pillars, right? To get out of debt, to live on a budget. You need to carry those insurances. Obviously, we want you saving for an emergency fund, for retirement, and prioritizing generosity. But to your point, the order in which you do those does matter. And so for people who feel overwhelmed and think, oh my gosh, I can't, afford to do all those things. Of course you can't. We want you to start at step 1. And for most people, it's just getting $1,000 saved and getting on a budget.
Jade, we started off the show talking about having credit cards or cash in your pocket. And when you look at the younger generation now, everyone has Apple Pay. And I asked my children, even when I use Apple Pay, you have to be cognizant over what you are spending. So do you encourage people to use less Apple Pay and use more paper money because you're cognizant over what the bill actually is at the register or online? Obviously, you can't do it, but they don't even know how much they're spending, including myself, when you're using all cards.
That's right. You're exactly correct. I mean, we know that the studies have been done that when you use cash, it lights up those pain centers of your brain. You actually feel it leaving your body. And now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people aren't walking around with loads of cash in their wallet, although we have seen that cash stuffing is a big trend on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm a proponent for that. Listen, if you can pull out cash from the ATM to pay for things like going out to eat, to pay for your groceries or gas, you are going to spend less money. But even going and using a debit card, that even helps. For the first time, my husband and I've never used Apple Pay, and we used it for the first time last night to pick up Indian food. And my husband said, wow, you're right, Jade. I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah,
so
it's
there's
really
zero
true.
friction, and we want to create friction.
When I was working way back when in the world of personal finance, there were 2 sort of things that we said if people are trying to get on a budget. Number 1 was pay cash, because you will feel it when you pull out the wallet and you pay cash. The other is to pay by check, because the the act of actually writing down what you're paying and then maybe balancing your check register there. You're not going back.